Watch Prime. Rated T for Teen.
Lag Force has one chance left to take a game off of Tempo Storm before Tempo Storm get a 3-0 win in their first series of the weekend, only series for Lag Force. But unfortunately for Lag Force, they are playing with the sub, although things seem pretty good for Leon Black and his integration with the team.
He's been looking really good on the front lines, you know, and it's also a bit convenient that they do have kind of B-Kid to resort to on that, even though he is still on the side lane. And, you know, if things really get that bad, I never even thought about that. B-Kid could be that guy who busts out the Wild Varian you were talking about a little bit earlier. But it's been working well. It's just, it's Tempo Storm, you know. They are looking dominant, looking good.
Well, Tempo Storm, they have one game left. Let's see where it's going to be if they want to close out 3-0. And that will be Towers of Doom, chosen by Tempo themselves. Lag Force, again, wanting to prioritize first pick in this instance. Towers of Doom, though, another potential place for a lot of globals. Maybe some more Abathur play, maybe some more Dahaka play.
Some more Abathur Dahaka, some more, you know, really, I feel like in the note of aggression, I feel like this is going to be one of the harder maps for Tempo to display that, but there are some games where it can be pretty lopsided in a map like Towers. We'll see how they make it happen here as we're getting ready for game number 3 draft. Oh, man. So we know that Lag Force has got to be the first pick as they did not choose the map. Medivh ban, almost inevitable.
They keep banning Medivh, but I wonder if it's at this point where they would be comfortable with first picking it. Sounds like no.
I find that really interesting that Lag Force is not comfortable being the first pick Medivh team. And I don't know if that's more of the lack of ability to play with it, but I mean, out of all the heroes, iDream has had an impact for me on the roster of Lag Force. It is probably
his Medivh.
Medivh, and almost solely his Medivh. It is by far the biggest impact is when he is on that hero. So I find it interesting that they are the ones unwilling to venture into it. Either way, Tempo, they're going to ban out that task.
No Task Tracer available to Lag Force. That is another composition that looked really good for Lag Force when they played it earlier in Part 2.
Yeah.
Biggie's Tracer. You had been talking about it. We hadn't got it. We kept not getting it. Finally, the role swaps allowed them to bring it out. It was dominant.
Yeah, it went pew-pew, and a lot of things died on the other side. First pick Abathur here for Lag Force.
Does that mean Genji Rhaegar?
I do think that's what that means. I mean, I'll go over the same thought process. Okay, you have to take the Genji. So then it's, did you want to risk the Rhaegar? Like, it's just, the question here is more of, is Rhaegar still needed to be the only pick that you have the option to choose at this point in time?
I would not mind another Tempo Stukov on this map. It was dirty stopping the sappers in the bottom lane versus Gale Force. We had talked about how annoying that must have felt to play against it, and I talked to Alkaface afterward, and I asked him about it, just a bunch of angry emojis. Not
just
happy at all.
Angry?
No, yeah, well, you can't do Brightwing through text, but yeah, it's just normal angry. But I know that would have been angry if it could have been.
So you're telling me every interaction we have with our pro players is not in fact through our client? That's weird. I don't know. I only speak through in-game emojis.
Only like 1%, is it?
Yeah, only
99%
you caught me in like the one time I didn't do it, okay? But it's Uther.
Whoa!
It got wild. We still got the Genji, but in fact the Uther is the man who's got the plan. He's going to make it happen here. Divine Shield, Dragon Blade, so much so that now I hope we end up seeing a Greymane Rhaegar. If you're going to see whatever your clone target is, because you can't risk it, again, I talked about that in the last draft, why Lag Force is unlikely to be able to risk it, so then take the Rhaegar to not miss a burst healer. You need that whenever you have Abathur compositions. Everyone he enables, every single one of them wants a burst healer. And then whatever that is going to be. Do you risk it onto the Greymane? If you don't, then you can pick whatever is the best, but I really like the idea of that Rhaegar and that Greymane here for Lag Force.
I do too. Other options, opportunities for them. They left Warrior till later on. It seemed like that was okay for them.
I want to see an Arthas.
Could be Greymane Tyrael.
You could Greymane Tyrael. There's the Rhaegar.
Rhaegar Greymane.
Yeah, once the Rhaegar's locked in, I agree with you. It's like 100% going to be.
What? Or not!
They just gave us an old
This
bamboozle.
is the Wild Stitches! Wait, what?
And there's no follow-up CC.
No!
And it's with an Abathur composition. Abathur has no burst. All right, so now Tempo, do you just ban out the Li Ming? Ban out the yeah, you ban out the Li Ming, you pick the Gray Main?
There's not even a Medivh
I'm
available
missing
for
something
Milk
here.
Carton. What's happening here?
Some kind of wizardry, that's for sure.
Tempo Storm thinks that Illidan
Illidan would be my... Yeah, that's kind of scary to play against. Like, you know what I mean? We have no idea what they're doing. We think we're a better team. I would just flat ban the Illidan. When I see an Abathur, I'd be like, Abathur, Rhaegar, I don't want to deal with Illidan. It is scary. I think that makes a lot of sense. The Gray Main does make a lot of sense, too. We talked about that before. It's just removing the burst.
Illidan. Yeah, I love the burst removal. I think Gray Main's a great choice here. No Cursed Bullet follow-up after Stitches. No go for the throat. Nothing to let him kill the person who's hooked.
The one thing I felt like is if you had rid of one of those two, then you have to pick the other, right? Like if you think it's a big enough problem to contribute one resource, you might as well double down, which means you go into a double reset by locking in a Li Ming. Nobody's prepping it, which is 100% means you have to mouth out, which means Lag Force should ban mouth out. It would be a really nice ban. I would like to see them ban the mouth out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Double reset with Genji Li Ming. Someone has to start them getting lower. I will say that Genji does a fairly good job on his own once he gets a good Dragon Blade if everyone is grouped up. There might be like a possibility for an Arthas instead of a Malthael just to try to catch them in chokes, slow them down, get them grouped up, and then Genji can just slice through until Li Ming jumps through with her Calamity.
I think you're right. I mean, it just comes down to forgiveness, right? I mean, it's like, you know, it turns out Gazlo, Gravel Bomb is actually really high impact as long as they're all sitting together in a little tight choke, you know? You are right. It's just how likely is that situation. I do agree with you. I am downplaying it a little bit too severe by going as far as to refer to it as a Gravel Bomb. That is an option that Tempo Storm could, in fact, move into. I just wanted to highlight the fact that you're just kind of like, well, in an ideal scenario, it turns out the spell is pretty good.
Is that how my voice sounds?
Yeah, well, it's pretty close.
I don't think so.
ETC was where we ended up. After all it's said and done, ETC.
So do we get Li Ming here?
Well, I don't think so. You get the Malthael. You don't take the Li Ming anymore. Fury's going to rep the Malthael. You take the Arthas as the secondary to slow everybody like you were talking about before. And you just go ahead, throw down the heroics, clump them all together. Genji does what Genji does best.
R.
Dead.
Yep.
Arthas. Falstead. So take the
again.
Falstead instead. Honestly, that is a lot. I'm disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to think of the Falstead.
We're all a little disappointed in you, Dread.
We're going to act like we didn't hear that one.
There's just a line here at the desk, a desk divided. What's going on with this? I've got to know. Stitches, Rhaegar, Abathur. What's happening with these last two picks?
Zeratul is the only thing I've concluded. Zeratul and then a huge Wamba to follow up like a Jaina. I'm not kidding. Like, I know this rabbit hole is just deeper and deeper, but boys, I'm not the one who started it, okay? I will be the one who finishes it, though, apparently. Right? Okay, so why Zeratul and Jaina? Clone target, Ring of Frost out of Void, hat target, Zeratul's great. Stitches Zeratul, great duo together. Jaina blow up after, and soft CC within a range to synergize with the Stitches. It's the, I don't want to say it's the only thing that makes sense, but it does make a lot of sense for how wild I just suggested those picks be.
We saw Jaina last week. The Zagara returns.
It got even weirder, man. We go with Lunara Zagara. Double macro on a map that has no keeps. Double macro. Gilly.
Fair. Lunara synergizes with the Stitches, though.
I mean, yeah.
You've got that double poison, slow life, unfair advantage. Even with Abathur. Who's going to be double Zagara? Oh, duh. They're going to double Zagara cheese. And just take structures. Take bell towers. And then they Abathur because they've got the mule and can keep it healed up.
Are you confident, or are you just throwing this out the same way I throw out Tranquility in the last game?
I would say like 75% because they've done it already.
Okay.
They have already double Zagara with this.
Was it on towers? I do remember it. It wasn't.
On towers. No.
And that's why.
I can tell you
that's where I'm kind of. That's where I'm. How do I say this?
It was on Battlefield of Eternity.
Anubarak is the last pick for Tempo Storm. Not surprised to see that one.
Yeah, you gotta take a bug to counter another bug.
Yeah, really, it's the only way to fight, you know? Like fire with fire, you just match it with whatever, and it's usually a good idea. So double Zagara's, okay, so I feel like I'm not doing a good job of understanding my confusion here. To see the double Zagara, to see the Zagara and the Abathur, there are compositions, there are maps, there are strategies that exist in competitive Heroes of the Storm where you in fact decide to try and not fight your opponent, and it can use those two, and yes, it in fact can win. It typically, almost always, when I use that word, it relies on getting keeps, getting global pressure through the catapults, and then being a huge problem. But that, I mean, I hate to say it, literally doesn't exist on Towers of Doom. So if you convert the bell towers, that is enabling, it is slowing the pace at which your opponent is winning. But as long as they convert it back, you didn't gain anything in terms of experience either. So I'm struggling to identify what is the win condition with a composition like this other than just, we got a hook. Like, you know what I mean? Just like the, hey, you know, anything could happen. But what is the core, like, because there are no keeps, I actually genuinely am just dumbfounded by what is the main goal for, like, Lag Force.
Let's find out. Game 3 is ready. Towers of Doom. Can Lag Force with the Zagara and Abathur win on Towers of Doom versus Tempo Storm? Let's find out together.
I mean, other than, again, the flood of pressure, just manipulating the map and painting it so red that Tempo Storm just goes, you know what? Let's go game 4. This isn't worth it. Not worth dealing with trying to rid of all this creep. I can tell you who will have a huge impact on this game in terms of the blue team. That's going to be Cawthon Luck. If he is on point like he was on Dragonshire, you can expect that Zag and Abathur are going to have a hard time.
Even Cawthon plus Psalm. Genji can rotate around this map very effectively thanks to Cyber Agility and Swift Strike. Zagara, it's likely that at least once, maybe more times, is going to get caught out at some point to stave off that pressure by Falstad and Genji rotating in.
Shout out to iDream for using his tunnel to make sure he was the first to the fort. Big win there. You got to make sure that you're the first. It establishes dominance over your team. Seriously, iDream's now the leader of this team. In fact, made it to the fort first.
Oh, that's how we figure out who's shot calling when Zuna's gone.
Yes, it's actually just pretty much musical chairs.
Well, we know what Lag Force probably is going to do. Is there any other, like, do you think there's any world where we have Devouring Maw?
So I've suggested that the last 2 times we saw their Zag and we didn't see it. And one time I said it just as like, oh, it's a chance. The other one I was like, I genuinely think this will be. And I was just flat wrong. So I'm going to say it again. I do assume this to be a Maw. But again, with their lack of comfortability to venture over towards a Maw, or maybe just even their consideration of the skill. How do I say this? Is Maw even good is a bit of a tough question to answer right now. My thought process behind the Maw, though, is solely because of the Stitches hook. When you hook in, they funnel in, and that's where you get the Maw. Much like Old Void, Maw was the second best tool back in the day when Zag was meta to deal with the Stitches composition. You hooked in, and then you just Devouring Maw 2 to 3. As long as you hit the healer, you know you got the kill.
Well, speaking about that Zagara, you can already see the effect that she is having in the solo lane. Fury has to play a lot more passively than he would be otherwise on that Malthael. She's trying to deal with the minions as they come into the towers.
Cattle's in a bad spot. He's yet to use that burrow charge. There goes Hook. Not thrown out by Leon Black. He's going to be patient here. Now he pulls back. There he goes. First blood over to Lag Force. And to boot, they've got themselves a nice little camp. Gonna get a secondary sapper. Triple altars up. Things are fine here for Lag Force.
Yeah, that sapper camp, double sapper camp at the start of this is going to be problematic for Tempo Storm. They need to deal with that as best they can, and as these run around, we'll take down the tower and the gate. Still a couple left to run in.
Zag is gonna start the top right channel on her own, but Psalm is there to get the reveal.
Still, the creep is spread out pretty nicely for B-Kid, so he can recognize when people are coming in here, and that's going to allow him to be passive. But Falstad's flying in. B-Kid's in trouble. And with Psalm and Cawthon Luck, a lot of Tempo Storm actually devoted to just taking both of the top altars. They will get 2 to the 1.
And hopes are squashed. Sad day. But that was exactly the reason I was talking about Cawthon and the impact I expect him to have here in this game. That is not the last time I expect to see a flight into a big kill onto either the Zagara or that Abathur here. That I mean, when it is the core of the composition here for Lag Force, again, until proven otherwise, I'm going to assume that is the case. It makes a lot of sense that that would be the ideal goal for Koth and Luck.
Even still, Lag Force and the amount of damage they got done with that double sapper camp allows them to be aggressive very early on to the bell tower, and the sooner that they can get bell towers down, the better. That is what this composition is designed to capitalize on, having an Abathur and a Zagara. Zagara is doing her job to the best of her ability up in the top. She's got the creep spread. Even though she did lose out on a kill, she died to the rotations, the ganks there, but she's still doing her best to push that lane while the rest are focusing on the bottom.
Big Impact here has no way to escape. And with all the heals already used, he's going to go down. Temple Storm still finding victories here on certain aspects of the map. Black Force ideally needs to find a way to be able to stop that from continuing to happening. It's not gotten out of control yet by any means, but if it continues to keep going at the rate it has over the past 2 minutes, Cattle should have the burrow charge.
He's a genius!
Yeah, Leon Black actually does have, you know, homing missile level Stitches hooks. I just have a, you know, I feel like he's just a little too on point with Cattle specifically.
Right.
Like if we could just turn the dial down and just maybe Fury or really anybody else, I think would be the goal.
Or at least force out burrow charge first, then profit.
Exactly.
Next altar spawning in 16 seconds. It's just in the bottom. Zagara's already started to make her transition down to the bottom lane to help out, which means Lag Force want to give it their all here, even though there is no heroic ability, so there's not an ultimate evolution for Abathur.
Falstad ate a lot of mines though, and
Hook.
got a hook.
Whoa! Tomster plus the mine is ultimate destruction,
But
Tomster's still going to go down.
They bite back. They get themselves a kill. Rhaegar's the first to drop. Abathur's yet to get the burrow and start the channel down below, but posturing is the members of Lag Forces. They have a huge positional advantage. B-Kid's going to start it.
That was impaled being used on Liam Black instead. Psalm has to go in and stop B-Kid.
But the dead person was a Falstad, a global. Rhaegar's not going to make it back anytime soon, so if B-Kid gets this channel, oh my, he does. That was about the last shot the members of Lag Force had, and they secure it. 32-32 when looking at the core HP, but it's all about the experience, the fact that this is even for the members of Lag Force.
Even with their Abathur, they are keeping up with Tempo Storm. We're going to see another invade. B-Kid's still here in the bottom lane, hasn't gone up to deal with that Falstad yet. We'll see if they can pull Falstad down to their level here with this invade.
Leon Black's got to make a way out. Burrow charge comes in. It's enough. Tempo Storm find another here. Just constantly keeping up that pressure. They do struggle around the objective, but they're fine as long as it's, you know, involving these sapper camps. You know, I say that, but the last time they did end up losing the double sapper, so maybe spoke a bit too soon. But Koth and Luck once again found himself a bird. The punishment coming out from Tomster and Big Impact. It's just a bloodbath.
That was necessary for Lag Force, but it feels like the invade maybe not so much. Keeping Zagara down means that she's now not having the amount of creep spread up in the top lane the way she did before. She's not keeping on helping out with the soaking. You can dual soak with Abathur, but it's more difficult. And importantly, if she's going into Nidus Network, she wants to, around this time, be spreading out her creep as much as she can so she can instantly get some Nidus Worms placed down once she hits heroic abilities. So now Tempo Storm getting the kill on Leon Black. They're invading for sappers on their side, and they're trying to make sure that they're the one in control with this bottom lane.
It's a really good point that you bring up with the side soak of the Abathur, and something I haven't really ever considered or ever brought up, at least on broadcast before, is if you go into mine build, it decentivizes double soaking a lot, which seems weird because you're committing where you've spec'd all your talents into specifically blowing up the minions, because that's the only way you get a double soak.
Yeah.
Because if you hat target, your W is out of the max range on the back line, but then the front line, they die too fast. Any Abathur who's tried to soak a minion wave knows what I'm talking about here. It's a doozy. It's a struggle.
And he should not feel comfortable body soaking because of the Genji and the Falstad unless the waves are all the way up.
Yeah, Cleanse was forced here. iDream actually saw him is the one going in. Fury drops the Tormented Souls. It's going to be, wow, the Ancestral of the Century landing there for Tempo Storm. The Gus is used to force and split, but the members of Tempo are very, very low. Tomster goes in, he bites, he gets a kill, 2 for 2.
Talk about a bloodbath in that 2 for 2, but finally Rhaegar drops iDream, and the
B-Kid can
clone
win this.
has still been dealt with. It's just B-Kid with an Abathur hat in the bottom, and there's still a well for Tempo Storm to tap at with the 3 members. There are 2 altars BK doesn't have creep spread around enough to have vision and see if he can take one of these.
Genji's E is the biggest thing. As long as that doesn't land onto BK, he should be okay for now. He can deal with the 1v1 into the false head. He can deal with the 1v1 into Genji as long as that cooldown is not used. So without Solm using it, and I mean understandably so, not too many purpose for that. He's going to go ahead, secure 4 more shots on bottom, and now everybody's looking towards the mid altar.
Caterpillar's used Burrow Charge. Biggie doing what he can to spread out the poison and work on getting June's cooldowns down. When we look at heroic abilities, Cocoon and Gust are up. Gorge is still a possibility for Stitches if Leon Black can get into a good position with that.
Cattle revealed. Bug's going to go ahead and wear that hook. B-Kid's got the delay from above. He throws down the E. Gust was used, expecting that these minions there dropped by Zagara would not be able to delay long enough. That's a cooldown. Black Force needs the force. They understand the advantage. They're going to move upward. They drop the clone. iDream's got the slow, but it's on the Cattle. He's still got a Burrow Charge.
Tempo's immediately leaving. As soon as they use that Gust, they were very understanding of the situation, which gives 4 more shots to Lag Force and importantly catches them up in the core health battle again. But they're falling behind in experience even as they have this Abathur Zagara specialist composition.
How do they find a way to be able to make a comeback here, or at least recover from the experience that they have found at a deficit? The biggest thing I do want to highlight here is Lag Force. At no point have we seen them even convert a bell tower or show interest towards it, which seems very surprising.
They need bell towers. It would seem very important to this composition to get bell towers.
It definitely amplifies the exaggeration of the problem that could be the sappers on bottom or even on top there if Abathur and Zagara had kind of free territory up on top, but they are yet to get much. That top front wall is just barely going to drop, and we're talking 10 minutes in the game. Zags in a lane mismatch 1 versus 1 can get that in under 3 minutes by herself. Hook Gorge.
He's taken a ton of poison damage. But Burrow charges back to the safety of June. And that is a cooldown used. Tempo Storm get, right? They get what Lag Force wants to do with the Zagara and Abathur, which is why we're seeing them have so much control over the bottom lane, immediately clearing out sappers, making sure to hold them before they can get to the range where they would run into the structure and start doing damage there. As long as they continue to play out as they have been, they keep Psalm just soaking in the mid because he can rotate up or down to help where he's needed, and Falstad so that he can do his best to keep Zagara at bay when she's there or just put counter pressure with that global. Tempo Storm are playing this out really well to get a 3-0 in this series.
And I do want to highlight that Tempo Storm is right now displaying a solution that might hurt Lag Force for future series. That Zagara that's being shown is with the thought process that it's a winning lane. Nice hook from Leon Black. The heals from June are enough to keep Psalm up. And it looks like they'll make it out. We have 4 more seconds. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the future, but this altar is online. 13 talent tiers for both sides. Falstead and Zag are here. We got ourselves a clone. It's going to be a battle.
Double Lunara trying to stop Tempo Storm from keeping Tomster from getting this altar.
Barrel roll was forced there from Cock and Luck over the wall. Tomster's the focus. Gorge is going to be used onto Cattle. He comes out, no Burrow Charge. The damage is there. Divine Shield is used on Caterpillar. That is not the target you want to have, that Divine Shield. Hook goes onto Cattle. The Gust is used. It's too late. Leon Black fighting here for Lag Force.
No Falstad now for 30 more seconds, and the altar is still up. Tomster is going to start channeling that. They have sapper camps that they can grab, and this might be the moment just from that hook from Leon Black for finally Lag Force to get the control in the game that they have been looking for with their comp.
And what I was talking about earlier, when what Tempo Storm is displaying here is the Falstad factor. There's been tons of teams that have been willing to raise the priority of Falstad due to Malthel being available into the meta, the soft counter, direct counter, whatever way you want to describe it. He is here to stay because of that hero. And then suddenly, the Zagara is with the intent that all traditional top laners she beats, except for a ranged Falstad, who does everything she does as well. Doesn't lose in the lane, doesn't get sustained down. If anything, it's better because he has a way to disengage onto a gank with that barrel roll, unlike Zagara. So it's just highlighting what could be a compositional flaw with that Zag pick. And Tempo Storm's displaying it pretty early here through HGC.
Love the escorting of those sappers. all of Lagforce finally recognizing that Tempo Storm were stepping out quite far in the lane to stop them from running in. So Leon Black used the fact that he had Gorge as a possibility just to threaten Tempo Storm back to their fort. And now that bell tower is all but taken. Zagara getting the top sappers again, starting to whittle down the top bell tower for Tempo Storm. This is a place where Lagforce could blow this game wide open if they're able to get those down at the same time around an altar phase, and we're getting pretty close to that next altar phase with 3 altars.
Lagforce is also showing another trend that we have seen displayed throughout North America in phase number 2 of prioritizing a 2-1-2 laning situation, or at least advantageous lanes on opposite sides of the map, rather than hyper-focusing a 1-1-3, winning one lane hard for short term, and then hoping you can use and snowball the map manipulation off of that one camp. Instead, slowly whittling away there at bottom and at top with that Zagara and the Abathur that we've been talking about all game. It's a, you know, it's going to be interesting to watch it unfold for the rest of NA here, but right now, Lagforce is making it look pretty darn solid. Anubarak starts the bottom channel. That's going to be uncontested.
Nobody's stopping Cawthon yet. Saw him doing a great job of keeping, zoning Lagforce away. So there's only the one altar that Lagforce were able to get, and it's 20 versus 20 in the core health. Lagforce ideally wanted to be able to get those 2 bell towers changed up so that Tempo Storm, whatever altars they got, they would get less shots out of it, and then Lagforce could make a power play by getting aggressive with their altars, but there's still a possibility of doing that. Tempo Storm finally recognizing who has been taking and sneaking the sapper camp at the top. They catch Zagara immediately doing it afterward, but there is the Gorge.
But it bought him time to get barrel roll cooldown back up. He's 13, he's not taking any damage. Not going to be up fast enough. Falstead is down. Leon Black, I mean, let's be real here. I want this guy in every single Lagforce game. He is making just plays left.
Hello?
This is disgusting.
This has been slowed. It's slowing Leon Black from getting down to the bottom to help out Lunara and Rhaegar.
Pre-cleanse from Tomster to make sure Big Impact is okay. Another stun hits. But now we find Leon Black to join the members of Lagforce. Hook, even if it lands, it's cattle. He is fine.
No Zagara attacking top. Bottom has been pushed way back. Tempo Storm making sure that they're keeping those 2 bell towers alive. How much longer, though, can they do this? There's another opportunity where getting those bell towers would be so tasty for Lagforce, but it would make them have to leave the bottom because both the altars are in the top.
In theory, this should be the bottom bell tower being converted for Lagforce 100%, with the Zagara being able to Nidus down on bottom. She does have the Nidus there. It's a little bit far behind, as you can see it very far back. Abathur instead is going to commit his body down below to try and aid in that. We'll see where she decides to show up here with the Nidus. It's going to go through bottom. It's going to be too late, honestly, to deny any shots at all.
They have to channel this. They don't have any time because Tempo Storm could just step forward and try to deny it, try to teamfight them, and we know they have a great teamfight composition. That's not what Lagforce are about. But still, the Zagara Abathur got a lot done. The minions are all the way up to the bell tower.
I'm pretty confident B-Kid just went to the bottom lane, went up to the minion wave, walked back, laid down a creep, set down a Nidus, and then walked out. That was all that they did in that bottom lane. And normally I would be like, what? Why? Why aren't you doing this? But I personally really appreciate, other than the fact that these double sappers are going to be picked up, they're going to match, the fact that they're willing to keep that bell tower alive. Capping it would just most likely let Tempo Storm be in a position to convert it right back. So timing it with something that is going to be relevant, I think, is a far better decision for the members of Lagforce.
They need to deal with this, or it'll be all for nothing even if they do get that bell tower. Leon Black gets aggressive, steps up to the plate, and they bring down the sappers. Top is done. Zagara went back up and got that. Top now in command of Lagforce.
Ball set's flying. They want this fight. Gorge is going to be used for Leon Black. Gust is there, and it's not going to be right on top of the cocoon target. That was a wasted heroic. Leon Black makes it out. The cleanse is used. Fury's in a bad spot. The hook. They do it.
They get Malthael. They get the 1 kill, and he's not 20 just yet, so there's no one can stop death. There's no one can stop death. Now Lag Force have exactly what they were hoping for. They can get this altar, this bell tower. There's only one altar to capitalize, but the damage is done structurally. They know that there's going to be a long time where Tempo Storm have to change back these bell towers, and that gives them time to figure out what can give them the biggest advantage, what can get them a big lead in the core health.
Lag Force is doing so much right here with this bell tower conversion. The master plan is coming together here, so well orchestrated, and it's with these 6 shots. Tomster just blasting into the core of Tempo.
10-16, and can you imagine if that had been any more than a singular altar phase because they had 20? But Lag Force are not ready to let up the pressure yet. Yes, 20 is here, Malthael is just about back, but there's time to get a double sapper camp in the bottom and posture in a way that they can try to escort these in. What do we have for defense for Tempo Storm, Dread?
I mean, they've got the Gus, which is always something you got to be looking out for. The Anubarak has the opportunity to spawn a lot of minions, which itself is going to be able to stall at the minions. Hold up here, Leon Black. He doesn't have a friend with him. Gust, Ancestral connects. They're still taking this fight. Tempo's in a terrible spot. Fury is on the backside of this.
They're completely split apart. Somehow Leon Black has continued to stay alive, and the Ancestral was a huge part of that. Now 2 are down. Make that a third. Anubarak's not there. June will be brought down, and there's sappers behind this for a ton of shots, Dread.
A ton of shots that are going onto the core of Tempo Storm. 6 shots remain. Boss alone is going to be 4. 2 members are dead for another 45 seconds. What did we see Lag Force do? Looks like they are going to show some consideration towards this boss. I would like to say that if Lag Force bosses right now, they're wasting a lot of the advantage time that they do end up having. But there is no Gust for 13 more seconds. There's a bit of a trade-off either way. But with a double macro composition, when you usually win these major fights, your biggest thing is paint the map red, and then make sure you abuse your advantages to never let Tempo ever stand a chance to come back.
Take bell towers because you choose where Tempo Storm goes with their next moves when they spawn.
And what's a safer call, boss and then bell towers, or bell towers and boss, right? And we know that the boss with that split pressure would outweigh the other cases, but either way, we find ourselves with 2 shots left.
They had enough kills that they could go get the boss, and the people who were left back up couldn't get the bell tower fast enough. So this is still end-game scenario for just about every way you look at it for Tempo Storm.
Caught in luck. Oh, using the epic mount, he makes it out. Zagar's going to start that channel down below. Nobody's going to make it to stall, and that is it. B-Kid gets the channel. Tempo will fall on Towers of Doom, and we go to a game number 4.
And just to reiterate how important that victory was for Lag Force, even if they lose the next game, and it ends up that it's a 3-1 in favor of Tempo Storm, Lag Force are now completely tied up in game wins with Superstars. And granted, this is only week 3 of 5 weeks to determine who's in the Crucible and who is in playoffs for the HGC Finals, but being tied in game wins when there are so many series for these 3 teams who are in Crucible range to be up against teams who are, when we look at it, just a higher skill level. And really places where people are hoping that they can get game wins versus teams like maybe Space Station. A lot of those series have already been done, right? Lag Force already played versus them. Even in Death already played versus them. That's maybe a place where Superstars could try to get victories, but Space Station just defeated Gale Force Esports, so I don't know. They seem to be powering up just fine on their own, right?
Yeah.
There's so few places to try to get these game wins that is huge, so huge for Lag Force.
It's almost as if they are weighted, though they shouldn't be, right? Like, as if everything goes to plan, that this is a weighted win in the favor of Lag Force. Granted, all it takes is one half of the bracket and somebody messing it up, and things kind of go out the window. But for now, and if things go to plan, this is, I mean, the thing that could separate them from going to the Crucible by still having an opportunity to compete at HGC North America. And they still have more opportunities. Conveniently, with that win, they get another chance. And possibly, 2 more, depending on how frisky they're feeling.
Yeah, being able to get a series victory, that's a whole different ballgame, and we'll approach that if we get to that upset, especially because, again, they're playing with a substitute. Now we're going to get ready for Game 4, but before we do, let's take a look at the global progress